Hello, one and all, Dr. Stone, Chapter 216, Hello World. And after a very, very, very long search, we have finally found it. We have finally found the most evil place in the world, the Y-Man's base. And it is a black smudge. Which is, interesting. Very, very interesting. I mean, this is normally the point where I theorize and speculate, but there's really not enough information here for me to even, form a theory on. I mean, what scale are we working with here? Is this smudge the size of a small city, the size of New York City, the size of Australia? How big exactly is this base, and what exactly is it? I mean, is it just a small little building where the Y-Man is staying by himself, constantly petrifying himself again and again to stay immortal? Is it the base for, the AI that is the Y-Man that's running everything, that keeps talking to Senku and warning him and threatening him? Or is this actually like a fully operating and running city on the moon? Is this, home to dozens or hundreds of people who are all living their lives on the moon for some reason, who are, afraid to go back to Earth? I mean, I'm really not sure what to make of this, though I guess, the fact that Kawaku had to spend so very, very much time searching for it does seem to imply that it's, a rather small location, let's say the size of a small town, rather than the size of, let's say, Australia. So, weird. Very, very weird. But speaking of Australia, we do actually get to see Australia and the entire world. Yeah, for the first time in this series, we actually get a map of the world showing how everything has changed, and there's some, biggies. First off, Australia has actually gotten bigger thanks to the coral reefs, which, humanity's no longer poisoning. America, though, has not been doing all that well. As it turns out, the volcano in Yellowstone exploded and did a whole bunch of damage. Yeah, for those who don't know, Yellowstone volcano is kind of overdue for an eruption, and when it goes off, it'll be bad. It'll be very, very bad, and there's a very good chance it could end up, wiping out a large chunk of the US, or at the very least covering a large enough chunk of the US in ash that things go bad for a very, very long time, and you would not want to be here when that happens. I mean, it is possible this is the reason behind the Y-Man's actions. He was trying to, basically protect humanity from the explosion of Yellowstone, which would have wiped out a large chunk of humanity's population, though if that was the case, it doesn't really answer the question of why is everyone still asleep? Why didn't he wake everyone else up after that happens? And I mean, faulty AI would make the most sense here. They built an AI that said, when the danger is past, wake everyone up. But the AI still thinks the danger is coming, the danger is in the future, so he never made the decision to wake everyone up. I mean, maybe. That's, the best explanation I come up with. Though, like I said before, Australia is definitely doing a lot better without humanity and their pollution, so is it possible he's waiting for the Earth to reach a certain point of health and wellness before he actually steps up and decides to wake everyone else up? I mean, maybe, I'm not sure about that. We also get to see South America, which is admittedly not doing all that well, as the desert is really spread throughout it, and it's looking bad. It's looking really, really bad, and fairly inhospitable. And we finally get confirmation that Panama Canal was in fact closed up, was covered, and has now been turned into marshes and grassland, so there's absolutely no chance they could have actually passed through it with their ship way back when, when they were trying to escape from Stanley. And I really do like they finally did confirm that, because, I've been wondering. I was really, really wondering. I just wanted an answer. We also see that China's turned into wetlands and massive rivers, which, interesting. And Africa is looking a little bit worse for wear. I mean, did that thing get hit by a meteor at some point? Because, there are some fairly large chunks missing out of it. I'm not sure what the exact logic behind that is. I mean, are there volcanoes in Africa? Not that I'm aware of, so yeah, asteroids, meteorites, that's my best explanation for why Africa looks so much like Swiss cheese. And speaking of that, I think this chapter also finally confirms the Dr. Stone reboot Byakuya is in fact non-canon because, in the reboot, a fairly large asteroid hit Europe, and I'm not actually seeing any damage done to it right now, so yeah, that didn't happen. Reboot is not canon at all. No element of Reboot is canon, sadly enough. I am hoping that by the end of the series, Boichi will draw up a quick little one-shot of, this is what would have happened at the end of the Reboot storyline. Oh, that would be nice. That'd be so, so nice. And I could really see him doing it. He definitely does seem to love his fans. Oh, and before we move off the map, this chapter also confirmed that all the, nuclear power plants that, went critical without any humans to monitor them have been rendered harmless due to, 3,000 freaking years passing, which, thank God, because that was definitely, a fairly big concern. I mean, those things are, deadly, incredibly deadly. In fact, in the Dr. Stone Reboot, I'm talking about it again, there's actually a panel where you can see all the power plants in the world basically going critical and exploding, and it is so, so beautiful and so terrifying, and I freaking loved it. Actually, now that I think about it, it's probably for the best that, Byakuya and the rest of them never went back to mainland Japan because, yeah, I'm fairly certain, I think Japan has nuclear power plants and they would have gone critical and it would have been very, very dangerous to be around them. So, yeah, maybe staying in that small island, Treasure Island, was probably the best choice for them. Curious, very, very curious. But anyway, back to start this chapter, the rocket launches keep failing, and this is really, really starting to bother Chrome because he realizes, okay, you know what, this is with Senku and Zeno, the world's best scientists, who are trying to make a very simple one-way rocket. I'm trying to make a return rocket that is way, way more complicated and will require way more testing than this one did, and that's going to take me years and years and years, and I really can't think of any way to justify this to Senku and the rest of them, to convince the rest of them that, we should do this, we should wait. We shouldn't send Senku up on what's essentially a suicide mission. So I'm not really sure what his plan is at this point. Right now, him and Suka are basically just going through all the, failed launches again and again, figuring out exactly what went wrong, trying to learn from them, trying to improve their calculations so they can make their own return rocket work well, but again, it's going to require all the more testing and trial and error and just take up so much time that won't be justifiable to the rest of the team. So yeah, they are kind of running out of options here, and that's bad for them. That's so bad. My best guess at this point is that Chrome is going to try and replace Senku, basically try to take his place on the rocket and go up to the moon and then wait for Senku to come find him at some point down the road in the future. That would make a certain amount of sense. I've been saying for a long time I thought Chrome would go to the moon instead of Senku, but at the same time, I think there'd be a whole lot of, logistical obstacles for Chrome actually going up to space instead of Senku, trying to convince everyone else that he's a better choice, trying to convince Senku to stay behind. Whatever, method he tries to use, that'd definitely be a lot of issues with it. Though I guess the other possibility is, the first one I said, when Senku first announced that he was going to build a rocket to the moon, a one-way rocket, and that's that Chrome is basically going to take everything he's learned from Senku, from all these failed rocket launches, and start work on the return rocket as soon as Senku is up there, and then, 10, 20, 30 years down the road, when he eventually gets the math right, the rocket's right, he will go up there, he'll find Senku, and he'll bring him back and show him the new world he's managed to build thanks to all of Senku's science. I could see that, I could definitely see that. Oh, also, a very interesting line in this chapter, Isuka is saying that the return rocket will need to be 5 times bigger than the other ones, at least according to Sai's calculations. So Sai is actually aware of why they're trying to learn math. That was something I ended up debating people in the comments about last week. People were saying, oh, Sai's not a bad teacher. He didn't actually know what he was trying to teach them, and that just seemed like really faulty logic to me. No offense. But, if they want to learn rocket science, learn how to actually build a return rocket, they can't just go to Sai and say, hey, Sai, teach us everything about math. They need to go to Sai and say, hey, Sai, this is what we're trying to learn. Teach us all the math we need to actually make this work. So yeah, Sai's definitely in on their plan, try and build a return rocket, though he's not, an active participant because, he's not helping them with all their trial and error, studying, reviewing, and all that. And oh god, I just freaking love seeing Suka studying so hard, trying to figure this out. It's so freaking adorable. I love her. I freaking love her. But anyway, after a whole bunch of trial and error and failed rocket launches, they finally get a rocket up into space, and they launch the first satellite, the first recon satellite. Huzzah! And while the images it gives back are fairly blurry, this is the first chance for the people of the Stone Age to actually see what their world looks like from space, and it just absolutely freaking blows their mind. Seriously, it blew their mind back when, Senku built a hot air balloon, and they were actually able to, move up above the ground. Magma was just going insane at that point. Now they built a rocket that can actually go into space and show them their entire planet. Seriously, just explaining to them that they live on a planet that's, a sphere must have just been a very, very long conversation. Actually, I think Senku had explained that to Chrome at some point very early on in the series. Chrome is, a scientist, he understands that more or less, but Magma and the rest of them, explaining it to them would be a very, very long endeavor. Oh yeah, and Ukyo also seems excited, seems rather happy that the satellite, actually launched successfully, which definitely does poke a hole in him being, the traitor theory. I mean, why would he be happy about their success if he's actually trying to sabotage them? I'm not sure. I mean, it has been a few chapters since we actually got any information about, him being the spy, any hints, any foreshadowing, anything that would imply that he's actually the spy. And, I was wrong last chapter when I said that, the rockets are being sabotaged. It was clear they were making mistakes because, they're working with Stone Age technology trying to build a freaking rocket. Obviously, that's going to cause issues. Obviously, it's going to cause issues. So, yeah, I'm really not sure where that storyline is going. I mean, like I said a while back, my best theory is that Ukyo was trying to sabotage them because, he didn't want them going up on the one-way rocket to the moon. He considered that to be, basically them giving up, them basically, allowing themselves to die on the moon. So he was trying to keep that from happening. I mean, maybe. I'm just really not sure about that. But then they send up the real satellite, the space telescope, which will actually give them a shot of the moon. And, while Zeno says, oh, this is too blurry, we can't actually make anything out, Kohaku is very, very confident in her ability to actually figure out what's going on, to actually find the Y-Man's base on the moon. And Zeno is, basically awed at what the descendants of Yak and the other astronauts were actually capable of doing, actually capable of becoming, as they were basically, a superior species at this point, which... I mean, that's weird. That's definitely a little bit weird, especially because, there were like 6 people. I think you need way more than 6 people to basically, restart all of humanity without causing, some serious genetic anomalies. I mean, let's not forget, Kohaku is incredibly inbred, and that's probably a bit of an issue. The series, just kind of trying to wash over, not really address all that much. I mean, she got upset when she found out that, Senku's father was her ancestor. I mean, Senku's stepfather was her ancestor. Without even seeming to really notice that, everyone in the village probably shares those 6 same ancestors. So, yeah, that's something interesting. And then after days and days of searching and watching the monitor without even taking a break to eat, she finds it. She finally finds the Y-Man's base on the moon. And she's so excited to show it to Senku that she literally grabs the monitor and jumps out the window with it. Oh, I love you. I freaking love you. And I am so very, very glad that, monitor has a very long cable attached to it, or this would have ended rather poorly for her. Oh, I love it. Anyway, she's finally able to show, this is it, this is the Y-Man's base. And while Zeno isn't really able to figure out exactly what it is, he can tell well enough, yeah, that ain't right, that shouldn't be there. Yeah, that's not normal right there. Yeah, fair enough, Zeno, fair enough. And, hopefully next chapter, we get a better shot of what exactly this is. Though I think it's also possible, they're just going to start going up to the moon next chapter. They're going to start the actual process of, building a manned rocket to the moon. And, with their goal basically being to get to this black spot, to reach this black spot on the moon, and then, work from there, try to figure exactly what it is when they can see it, up front, close and personal. I mean, Zeno wasn't actually aware of Kohaku's, super-powered vision, so what exactly was the plan for the space telescope before this? I mean, were they looking for something? Were they gonna, process the data, process the image somehow? Were they gonna have to build a bigger monitor? What exactly was Zeno's plan to actually use space telescope for if he, didn't have Kohaku to actually search manually for the Y-Man's base? I'm not actually sure about that. But please, let me think all down below. What exactly is this black spot? Is it, a single base? Is it a city? Are there people living there, just spending their lives on the moon, completely unaware of what's going on back down on Earth? Or are they, like the dragons in One Piece? Are they the aristocrats who think they're better than everyone left on Earth? Oh, I could see that. I could definitely see that. And next chapter, are they going to start building the manned rocket to the moon? Or are they going to try and figure out a way to make a better telescope that's actually able to get more detail on what exactly this black spot really is? Actually, now that I think about it, I'm kind of wondering if that's an underground city? Like, is that is that a big hole right there they kind of dug into to mine for resources that they need to, continue their base on the moon? That would actually make a certain amount of sense, especially because, there were a lot of Medusas that were made. A lot of Medusas. And, they needed some place to actually harvest the materials for them. And, it was made of some sort of glass-like substance. So maybe that could have been formed from processing moonstone, moon sand, all that. I mean, maybe. But anyway, please link all down below. Be sure to like this video. And until then, peace!